Okay, so I say this time, inshallah, will go strong. So yeah,
Inshallah.
inshallah.
So welcome everyone to the Zoom meeting. We are excited to have you all, and also we have a guest today. So Dr. Sumi will run the meeting. Thanks for coming up and joining us, Dr. Madredi. Dr. Madredi is a family physician who also specialized in geriatric medicine. So we invited him today to talk to us about a little bit about the subacute and long-term care medicine, which is basically it's a new subspecialty coming down the road. So I will leave it to Sumi. You can take this meeting. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir, and all geriatric research fellow. Good evening, everyone. And we are going to start our meeting. Is about 2 o'clock today, Saturday, July 31st. And as Dr. Nadir said, I think probably we are going to start with Dr. Madhuri Reddy. And if Dr. Reddy is ready, otherwise we can wait 5 more minutes, whatever works for him. Thank you. Dr. Reddy, probably you are, can you unmute yourself?
So, you want me to start, Sumi?
Can you?
No, Dr. Reddy is going to start.
So
Okay, I'm here.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Dr. Madhreddy. I am a clinical fellow professor at Michigan State University. I'm a geriatrician. I'm a family physician. I graduated from Michigan State University in the geriatric program, and I am here in Lansing. Mainly, I do subacute and chronic long-term care settings, and also I do hospital and office settings. It is a very rewarding field, and very happy what I do, what I like to do. Otherwise, I'm happy to help anybody has any comments. Nadir, Dr. Abdul Rahman, he is a professor in MSU, and we both graduated from the same program. So we know each other for a long time.
So basically, we graduated from geriatric medicine, and nowadays there is another subspecialty. So as Dr. Madreti mentioned, he goes to nursing homes, he goes to hospital, he has his own practice, like a family clinic practice. And I believe you go to home also, you visit patients at home as well. So it's kind of a big spectrum. It's the whole from home to the hospital, and if patient needs rehab, he follows them. If they go back to home, they can come to his clinic again. And also the long-term, if there are patients in the nursing homes for long-term care, he follows them. And I believe you see patients also with hospice. Is that true?
Correct, yeah. I do see pretty much all levels of care. Hospice, palliative care in the nursing home, home hospice. I do a few group homes and assisted living settings too.
So basically the whole spectrum from A to Z. So, and you also, I believe, you attend some of the meetings for ANDA, the annual meetings.
Yes, I am involved with some of the organizations, including the American Medical Directors Association, that is called AMDA, and we have the state chapter called the Michigan Medical Directors Association. We involved very much in those organizations. It is very helpful communicating and sharing the information, what we are practicing, and to make any changes and recommendations to go to the national level. This is organization helps as a channel.
Excellent. And you were a member of the committee for the chapter at one time, right?
Yeah, I was a treasurer at the Michigan chapter, and I am a state delegate for the national chapter. We are very happy to share the information to bring it to the national level, any kind of issues, and keeping a group discussions and participating and giving an opportunities for the next generation to continue that hereditary behaviors. It helps very much. It helps a lot, and I can see when I started like 15 years ago how it is, and now how big it is. It is a big organization, and people are interested to help the elder people, especially the baby boomers are already into the field. So especially with the COVID, my guessing, I think those organizations will get bigger and bigger, and more people are going to involve because of the eventually we are going to be in the generation in future. Yeah, it is very helpful parties involving with the state and the national chapters, and helping the organization and helping the people whom we are working and whom we can help.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And basically what we want from Dr. Madredi is to show you that when you finish your residency, let's say you go into internal medicine or family medicine, you have options to further educate yourself. You can go to geriatric medicine. It's one specialty. There are other subspecialties down there. And he selected the geriatric fellowship. And one thing also nowadays is important is patient satisfaction. So you treat patients, you treat in any setting, and then you may get some feedback or rating. Some websites record that. So I will just mention two of the patients that you took care of, and their family were happy with your care. One mentioned that in the website vitals.com. You were given 5-star out of 5-star, Dr. Madredi, which is good, great. So the first comment I saw that is about her mom. She said, my mom is 86-year-old and he treated her as his mom. Dr. Madredi is the best doctor in this community. So that's a good one. The second family member talked about also you. A doctor is smart and intelligent. He always straight to the point and no nonsense. My family like this, his mannerism. He is always the best physician for my mom and anyone. So thank you for giving that high level of care and the quality of care that you provide to the patients on all settings. So I'll open it for the fellows if you have any questions for a couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes, and then we will let Dr. Madredi go to his own wife. He has one daughter, I believe, and his wife also involved with his work. Thank you. Any questions, please? Sumi, you can lead from here.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir, and thank you, Dr. Reddy, for your great contributions. And we are very excited and happy to have you here today. And we are just introducing ourselves. This is a I'm sure that you already knew about this program, but this is a Telegeriatric fellow, and our all fellows are from different countries, including like Sudan, US, Canada, UAE, and different parts of the world. And due to this pandemic, we submitted a couple of abstracts last year, and a couple of fellows already joined residency starting this year, 2021 June. And we all are applying probably next year, some of these, and we're working towards it. And thank you so much for your time. And we are really blessed to have you here today. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Reddy? And I think whoever joined just now to specify, Dr. Reddy is a family medicine specialist and a geriatrician in Okemos, Michigan, Lansing, Michigan. And he is also affiliated with different medical specialty facilities such as like Memorial Healthcare and Sparrow Hospital. And he does, take care of like from primary care to geriatric as well as palliative cares. And of course, some of you already knew about him, what the patient's attendance and patient talk about him. He already achieved 5 out of 5. So we are very, that's the inspiration for all of us, how he took care of his patients. Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Do you have anything to say, Dr. Reddy, for us?
Good luck, everybody, and help yourself and your families and your community, and move on.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. So we are going to our next agenda. So I believe Red team, they are going to present data collection management. And I think Dr. Hadil Awad is going to present today. Are you ready, Hadil?
Yes, I'm ready. So
Thank you. Thank you.
now,
The floor is yours now. Now we can start.
data collection and management. So the topic is very big, so I'll try to give like a brief introduction for its element. So we'll start with definition of data. From philosophical point of view, data is the things known or assumed as fact, making the basis for reasoning and making the basis of reasoning or calculation. From Oxford Dictionary, research data is any information that has been collected, observed, generated, or created to validate original research findings, although usually digital. But research data also includes non-digital formats such as laboratory notebooks and diaries. So when we come to classification of data, there are two types of data, quantitative and qualitative. And quantitative data are mainly numerical data that can be statistically analyzed and usually answers the question of how many, what, or it's further classified into two types, like continuous and discrete. For example, like when we have discrete quantitative data is usually counts, like when you ask a question in your research about how many children in this house, so the answer will be discrete, like 3 children, 4 children. Never you will get an answer like 3.4 or 1.5. But on the other hand, the continuous quantitative data is it's a kind of data that usually describe many measurement. For example, when you ask a question like, what is your height? You can have an answer about 1.5 meters, 1.3 meters, and so on. So the continuous is could be made more finer and finer, but the discrete, it cannot be that way. So the other, on the other hand, the other type of data is qualitative data, which is the non-numerical type of data, and usually describe or categorize or classify, or like we use it in the description for behaviors and beliefs, and it usually answers the questions like how and like how and why. So it could be classified further to ordinal, binary data, and nominal data. So binary data is usually the data that in the questionnaire or in the research, like they gave you the answer like yes or no, right or wrong, bad or good. It's just two options. So, but the ordinal data, it gives us like it implicate orders of the thing. Like for instance, you ask a group of people about their heights. So, and you have like closed question answer with closed question, a closed-end question. Like you have a specific answer that you need to categorize the answer on, like into it. I mean, like the height of people, either tall, medium, or short. So you have the answer will be categorized one of these orders. The orders usually implicate the difference. That's one is better than the other. And the nominal is the one that will not implicate any order, but it's like, for instance, like when you have a group of fruits and you want to categorize their colors, so red, blue, and so there is no order, but everyone describe the situation. So this is the classification and types of data. Here we have other terminology, which is variables. Variables are the characteristic or value in a study. They are the data to be collected in the study, and they are further classified into three classification: dependent variable, independent variable, and confounding variable. So for the dependent variable, those are the variables in the study that express the outcome to be measured. For example, you have a study that you want to know the risk factors that cause diabetes or congestive heart disease or obesity. So this outcome, diabetes and obesity, are the dependent variable because their occurrence depends on other variables, which are independent variables. The independent variables, those are the stable and unaffected variables that you try to measure because they cause the outcome. For example, dietary fat, sweet consumptions, serum cholesterol. So we have the third classification of variables, which is confounder variables, or confounding factor is a variable that can cause a false association because it usually affects each the other types of variable, dependent and independent. Further, maybe explanation of the kind of what we mean by confounding factor. For example, this is an example like a scenario, like you have a drug that a drug which we can give it the symbol of X, and you have a group of people who use this drug, and this drug cause a recovery from specific disease. We can give a symbol for recovery as Y, but actually have the other variable, which is the gender, either male or female. We can give the code or the symbol Z for the gender. So the gender in this scenario affect the choice of drug. So like maybe the female don't use this drug, or the male use it more. And also the gender by itself affects the recovery from this particular disease. So here the gender is a variable that that affect both dependent and independent variable. And if you are not if you did not consider the confounding variable, so your research result could be false, or you may miss some kind of association. Here's other example, like how the weight gain is a dependent variable on the activity level or on food consumption, and how the age is a confounding variable because it can affect both variables. So how are you going to identify these variables? Data to be collected. When you have a research, when you are starting to planning to study some phenomena or anything, so how you can determine those variables? First of all, from literature review or from your own knowledge and experience, and also you can seek an advice from experts. So here we are going to talk about tools used for data collections. Here are some examples of some of the tools. There are many tools. We have questionnaires, clinical examination, lab investigations, measurement, telephone survey, internet survey, focus group discussion and observation, either structured or non-structured observation. Here are examples of some types of research data that can take many forms, like a spreadsheet, protocols, procedures, standard operating procedures like models, photographs, films, slides. Many forms could be used as data in any research type. So the question that arises, what governs the choice of the tool of the data collection? Is your interest as a researcher, your philosophy, what you want to study. So your interest will govern which type of tool that you will use. And also the type of data required. Is it qualitative research? Is it quantitative research? Do you want to pre-test a known knowledge or information, or you want to create knowledge as in qualitative research? So, and also it depends on the target group on which the research is to be conducted on, their education levels, and so on. So, in qualitative research, there is specific types of tools of data, data collection, like oral history and biography, and ethnography, ground theory, phenomenology. Some researchers just start to study social phenomena or any kind of phenomena, and we have observation, and we have case study, we have semi-structured interview, we have non-structured interview, and we have content analysis from like a storyline or any kind of narration. So the second part of this presentation is what we mean by data management or research data management. Here's the definition that is adapted from a website. It's an overarching process that guides researchers throughout the different stages of the data life cycle, enabling scientists and all other involved stakeholders to make the most out of the generated research data. Here is the data life cycle. As you can see, the researcher is in the center, and when he wants to execute any research, he will start with planning, then collecting, then analyzing, then publishing, then preserving and sharing of the result and the data itself, and then reusing of the data. And every single step of this life cycle can be be broken down to many different steps, but I will give just a small introduction of each. Like in the planning stage, the researcher should know, for example, who are the target population who want to execute the study on, and where are the geographical location, and when is the time frame, and how he will gather his data, the sampling process, and so on. And beforehand, before starting, he should planning for the communications, the letters that is needed from different like institution or universities or something, the consent and approval of the sample to be studied, or the member, I mean, of the research, the respondent or the participant of the research, the logistics, like the funding, transport, manpower, and supervision, and equipment if he needed them for like taking scales or instruments. So here are some terminologies that can help us to understand more the nature of data collection and management. When we say population, we mean by it in the research field the entire group of people of interest from whom the researcher needs to obtain information. Census is a pooling of the entire population. So the entire population are the are participant in your research. The survey is a pooling of the sample. Questionnaire, as many of you may know, it's a research instrument, consists of a series of questions for the purpose of gathering information from respondents needed to accomplish the research objective. So most of the research, we don't, the census has its particular situation, but most of the research use sampling. So why we use sampling method? Because the population of interest is usually too large to attempt to survey all of its members, and a carefully chosen sample can be used to represent the population, and the sample usually reflects the characteristic of the population from which it is drawn. So here are brief introduction of about types of sampling techniques. We have two types, main types, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So the probability sampling, that means each member of the population to be studied has a probability to be selected and has a chance to be selected in this study, theoretically. So the method of probability sampling mainly are four: simple random sampling, you just randomly choose, or systematic sampling, we'll explain it further, cluster sampling, and stratified sampling. So systematic sampling, you can see here, it's like you have a random starting point. When you have a population of members, you have a random starting point, but what governs the choice of the next sample or member is what we call sample interval. And we calculated using the entire population size divided by the sample size that is should be predetermined. And then, like here in this example, you can see the starting point was randomly selected as 2, and the sample interval was 2. So they pick the next number after 2, and then 5, and then 8, and in this sequence. So stratified sampling, it's when I try to explain it, it's like you divide your population into strata. The strata is a homogeneous group of members, like you divide your sample to male and female, or you divide them according to their education status or their income. On the other hand, cluster sampling is dividing your population, your target population, according to your geographical location, or like if there is like political division. Like for example, you want to study, you have to execute a study in a city, so you divide it geographically into east, west, or east, west, and south, and then randomly you pick a cluster or two, like the east and south, and so on. So each one of these, you start with maybe dividing to cluster or dividing to stratified strata, but then you just get back to simple random sampling procedure. So the other type of sampling technique is not probability sampling. So the members are selected from the population in non-random manner in this technique, and we have four main methods, like convenience sampling, which is the researcher just choose the members or the sample conveniently from in a handly manner, the one who can get to them, the one who are he's close to them. So just the convenience number, maybe volunteers. So without using a complicated method of random selection. Purposive sampling, it's sometimes called judgmental sampling. It depends on the researcher has a judgment or has a he chooses the members or the individuals according that he knows that they have the information or they have the characteristics that he's searching for. For example, I have a personal example, like from my own research. It's about menarche menstruation in female pupils. So it was some of it. It was purposive sampling because I choose just the girls who already reached the menarche, already reached the puberty. We have quota sampling. Here we divide the target population to, like, we take a quota from each group or member. Like if we have in Sudan, we want to conduct a study, and then we need members that representative of each like tribe or each geographical destination. The fourth type of sampling is a snowball sampling. It usually used for when our the members or the sample is difficult to be reached. For like we want to execute a research among the addict or the HIV patient, and you don't have the records for addict or their addresses or something like that. So you know one of them, so you give him the questionnaire and you ask him to bring other one who he knows as an addict. So it's like a snowball that start with a small number of participants, and it get larger because the participant like invite others who they know. Okay. What govern your choice of sample design? Definition. You should define, as a researcher, you should define the target population, and then you should determine the sample frame, probability, non-probability, and then the specific sampling technique, and then determine the sample size. There are many equations and many applications that can help you to determine your sample size. You just enter the information like your target population size and some it differs from equation to equation. We have some famous equation like a Yamani formula, and then you execute your sampling process. So here's a brief introduction about types of questionnaire. I just choose the questionnaire because it's the most used maybe in our fellowship program now. Is like, so the types of questionnaire should it can be like interviewer administers, the researcher himself asks the question and writes the answer, or train some interviewers to do the task, or self-administered like the internet survey. You just like ask the participant himself to fill the questionnaire. Then how should the question to be asked in the questionnaire? It could be open-ended question, it could be closed-ended question, like you put fixed alternative responses, multiple choice question, scaled response question, for example, Likert scale, like you give him the statement of the question, and you ask him to put his response according to the scale: strongly agree, neutral, and so on. So what we have here other concept, which is called pilot study or PTED. Your questionnaire, to increase your validity of the study, you should like pre-test your questionnaire or the tool of your data collection on individuals who are similar to but not part of your study population. Why? Because you need every question to be clearly understood, time taken to complete to be reasonable, and if you want to know if the language that you use in the questionnaire are understood or no. So we almost reach our end of presentation. We discussed the planning. Here is the analysis process for the quantitative research. We started with data preparation. After you gather your data, you collect your data, you start with preparing the data, gathering them together, editing. You can remove the unfinished responses. You start also you do coding of the data for the questions or for the statement of the answer. You classify the answers and put in the in tables tabulation. Then you do data description by usage of descriptive statistic, which is a process of describing the basic feature of your data, like to extract the median, mean, mood, range, and standard deviation. Then the further step is by usage of inferential statistic, you draw the inference of the data. You establish the association, the relation, the differences. For example, you can use ANOVA, and the at the end, you interpret your result. You translate them to understandable meaning. Here is a very brief description of how the qualitative research analysis can be done. The qualitative analytical process is like, maybe there are many kind of analytical process, many kind of qualitative research, but for the sake of simplification, your component from the qualitative research, you start to reduction them because they usually storyline or like open-ended answers from an open-ended interview. So you start by reduction them, translating them into meaning, and then you extract code and code from each response, and then you gather them into pattern, and then you come with your outcome. You describe your outcome and interpret it. Okay, thank you so much. And if you have any question, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hadilawar. That was really outstanding presentation, and it was very informative. Does anybody have any questions? I did not see any question in the chat box, but please feel free to raise your hand if you have any question. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dr. Somi.
No problem. I can see that they said like that's a great presentation. And if nobody has any questions, so we can move forward to our next agenda, if that is okay. Or anytime you can type your question in the chat box if any question arises. So part 2 is like as we do research, so everyday basis we face different kinds of bias, such as selection bias, informative bias, confounding bias. So Dr. Abir is going to teach us today like selection bias and the potential solution for it. Dr. Abir is ready?
Yeah, let me share my screen.
Sure, take your time. Dr. Hadid, you can just stop sharing your screen so I can do that. Yeah, now you can see my screen.
Yes.
You see
Yes.
my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So we're gonna talk about selection bias, and the content will be error. We will discuss error in epidemiological study as general, then the random versus systematic error, what is the difference between them. Then we will talk about the definition of bias, and we will concentrate in this presentation on selection bias, what are the type of selection bias and how we can prevent that. And we will take some example. So as general, there are two types of error in epidemiological study. It could be random error or systematic error. Random error is usually unpredictable and will not affect the study that much. And but systematic error, it is harmful for the study because it gives us biased result. And there are many types of systematic error. Usually we call systematic error a bias. So the first one, selection bias, information bias, and confounding. In this presentation, we will concentrate on selection bias. So what is the difference between random and systematic error? Random error, as we said before, it is error in the measurement that will lead to inconsistent result. And the results usually cluster around the value point, but not precise. It's accurate, but not precise. And usually it affects the reliability of the test, and mainly or most of the time due to wrong measurement technique. When we repeat the measurement, we may fix that random error. At the other point, systematic error or bias, it's fixed, happens all the time. When we repeat the measurement, it will not disappear, and it affects the accuracy of the result. It gives us precise result, but not accurate at all. And usually due to wrong instrument calibration. Like you can see here in this diagram, the random error, it gives us reliable, accurate test, but not precise. And in the other hand, systematic error, the result gonna be precise, but not accurate. So what is the definition of bias in research? Bias is the deviation from the truth in data collection, analysis, interpretation, and that may cause a false conclusion or wrong result. And systematic bias often skews the study result or distort the study result. So what is the selection bias? Selection bias is the error introduced when the study population does not represent the target population due to some selection preferences. Dr. Hadil, in her presentation, she mentioned that we have a large population, we have to take a sample from that. But this sample, to give us a reliable or accurate result, it should be representative of that population. So selection bias leads to inconsistent or non-existent or false association between exposure and outcome. We can see here in this illustration, these happy faces with different color represent the entire population. And as a researcher, if we intend to collect sample of them, like this sample in right side of the illustration or the diagram, definitely this sample different from the entire population. As you see, if you collect this sample, we will miss a lot of data behind. So what is the effect of
selection bias. We can take this sample in case control study. If we want to study the association between pancreatic cancer and coffee consumption, and we collect or choose to study the pancreatic cancer patient in the hospital, and we choose the control group from the same hospital, admitted patient from the GI ward, but they have other GI disease rather than pancreatic cancer, like patient with peptic ulcer, gastritis, or gastric cancer, and see their exposure to coffee consumption. But this sample, already they cut or reduce the coffee consumption because it will alleviate their symptoms, or as the doctor advised. So here, if you remember, a 2x2 table to calculate the odd ratio, which is estimate the relative risk in case control study. So here the A represent cancer patient who consumed coffee, and in the first column, and cancer patient who cut the coffee consumption. And in the other hand, no cancer, that is the control group who drink coffee, and the other row, they don't drink coffee. And we calculate the odd ratio. It's odd of exposure in case over odd of exposure on control. So if we collect the sample from patient admitted to the hospital who have other GI disease, and they already cut or decreased the sample size, it's gonna decrease the odd of exposure of control, and will give us an accurate result. So we have to be careful and try our best to collect the sample that will represent the entire population. So I think it's wise to, if we collect the sample from outpatient or from different department, but not from admitted patient with GIT, gastrointestinal disease, to ask them about the exposure of coffee. So there are many types of selection bias. The first one, sampling or ascertainment bias, which occur when some member of population are more likely to be selected in a study sample than other. And definitely it will lead to incorrect conclusion. For example, health worker effect, that bias occur when the sample selected from employed people only. And usually they are healthier and active than the general population. And this will lead to underestimation of morbidity or mortality in this study. The other example, selection bias. Self-selection bias occur when individuals with a specific characteristics select themselves to involve in research sample, like pre-diabetic. They try to jump in their study just because they have specific characteristic, like family history of hypertension in their family or pre-diabetic, but they will not represent the entire population. Also, non-response bias. Participants who respond to survey may be different from general population. And also participants who decided to not respond to survey or questionnaire involved in this type of sampling bias. And volunteer bias, also subjects who volunteer to medical research may be different from other population. Also, they are active and healthier than general population. The second type of selection bias, it is Bergson bias or paradox bias, occur due to subject selection from a specific segment of population. As our previous example, we select the hospitalized subject, but they are most likely have a severe illness and high risk for disease, and they have many comorbidity or mortality factors. And a lead lock bias, it's when the subject with severe or fatal disease are less likely to be studied. Maybe they already died or unavailable, which make the disease seem less severe. Like if it is a very fatal disease, like the patient dies within a week or so, they squeeze the result or conclusion of that study. Loss of follow-up bias, or also called attrition bias, occur due to unequal data lost from the participants who are lost during the study. There are many causes, maybe due to due to loss of interest in this study, or they have some side effect, or due to ineffective communication between researcher and participants. So how we can prevent selection bias? Sometimes it is difficult to minimize this selection bias, but we have to try to minimize it to some point. I think less than 5%, or different from study to study. We have to decide to continue this study or not, to revise the design and data selection to get accurate result. So we can try making the study representative by including random large size as possible. Also by randomization, which is the main factor that we can use to decrease or prevent the selection bias, mainly for interventional study. And we have to try to match participants in the study and control group as closely as possible. Also to adjust for factors that may affect the outcome. And if it is unavoidable, we have to acknowledge that in our study. Usually we have to acknowledge that in limitation section in our study. If we feel that this selection bias affect the accuracy of the result and skew the result to one direction. So that's about selection bias briefly. Thank you, and feel free to ask any question, but please not a hard one. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abir, for your presentation. It's a very important topic to cover because as we all are involved in research, so this is very important how we prevent selection bias. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Also from, I think, Dr. Hadil's presentation, I have one question in the chat box that can you say the difference between binary and nominal variables from Tamador, Dr. Tamador? What I understand that binary data is probably to represent like one of the two conceptually opposed value, such as like success versus failure, something like that. That's how we use binary data, versus nominal variables are like, it's like a qualitative values, like it's represent different categories such as gender, class, and like name, something like that. But I hope Dr. Hadil have better explanation than me because that's very basic information. Go ahead, Dr. Hadil.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So it's I can give like an example, like if you have a research Tamador about you ask some people like do they like apples or no? So if you give them like a predetermined answer. Like, for example, just the responses to be categorized to bad or good. Like some people will choose apples are bad, or some people choose apples are good. So this is binary responses, because it's just categorize responses to two: bad or good, right or wrong, accept or reject, like or dislike. But if you have an other question, like what type of apples that you like, so they can say, I like green apples, red apples, yellow apples. You have different kind of apples. This is nominal, because there is no orders, but they are different. This is the category. The categories are different, but they are not in order, like in the ordinal data. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hadil. Tamadar, I think that's answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any questions from Dr. Abir or any other? If not, then we are going to our next agenda.
So I just want to add a couple of comments. Thank you so much, Dr. Hadil and Dr. Abir. This is both of you. You did great job and great presentation. It's a big topic, I know, but you presented in a concise, very helpful way. Hopefully, all of us will get the benefit out of it. I'm going to share with you just one table, if you can see this. So the demographic table, mostly when you are doing a research project and a study, you want to present this study population table so that you can address the significance if there is any bias or anything different for the reader or the viewer or the audience. If you are selecting population male female, you want to see if there is a difference there. The age population, you want to look at if there is a difference between the control and the intervention, for instance, something like that. And you go down the list. So basically, you want to show if your sample, when you select the sample for your study, it's well representing the population that you are studying. And most of the articles, when you read it, it's the first table they presented. And so when you are writing your manuscript, it's better to get this table for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir. That's very, it's very easy way to understand and all that. That's very informative as well. Anybody have any other questions? You can raise your hands. Otherwise, we are going to move to our next agenda, which is like, okay, go ahead, Dr. Osman. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, thank you for letting me know. Thank you, Hadil. Thank you, Abir. A very great presentation. I have a question for Dr. Abir, please, because our project, now we have a team, and after we finish this, the planning of our topic or our project, we're gonna start our data collection. So I'm going to explain to you, Dr. Abir, and you show me what is the way to avoid some of the errors you explained. So we have we're going to choose like 3 states, and in each state we're going to choose a number of senior homes that we're going to contact to conduct a survey. So this survey, we're going to make calls and we're going to fill the survey over the call. So now each state have hundreds of senior homes. So I want to avoid like concentrating in a certain area or pick our senior homes from a certain place. So do you have a suggestion how to pick and choose which senior homes we're going to contact, so we avoid some of the selection bias? Or what do you think about this? What do you think we should take to choose the measures we should take to choose appropriate sample from each state?
Okay, that's a good question. you have to try your best. Like, for example, I live here in Illinois. We know in different area, like in South area, more of Hispanic and Black people concentrate in this area. So if I take a sample from this area, I will miss a white people. You can follow this. So you can pick from different area according to population, the dominant population there. So you can avoid the selection bias to get a representative sample. And Dr. Nadir can comment more on that.
Yes. Yes, Dr. Nadir, I'm listening.
Thank you, Dr. Abir. This is a good answer. I'd like to add 2 points. The one point, as Dr. Abir mentioned, if you look at the census report, you can get the, let's say, state by state. Let's say we focus on Florida, then you go to the census of Florida. So your job is to look at the different races in different areas. And depending on that, you can select how many, let's say 50 or whatever number you selected to represent all this. That's one way, using the data already there as far as census and race and ethnicity. The other option, when you are locating a geographical area, let's say Florida itself, you can use cities versus rural areas. This is also a comparison. And the other way, when you are using the address, there is a zip code. When you have, let's say, I think Florida has 700 nursing homes, let's say. So if you want to get a 50 out of 700, then you put the list, you go by the zip code, select the first one randomly, and then after, let's say 10, you select the other one. After 10, you select the other one. So by the zip code, it will distribute your selection bias or selection sample from different areas in the state itself. So you can do it different ways if you wish.
Okay, can I ask one more question, because it will make our life easy, and I hope the rest of the group is listening. How many nursing home you suggest to contact per state?
So let's target between 10% to 15 or 20%.
Okay.
So if it's 770, for example.
7, okay, 10 to 15%.
Like that. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nadir. Thank you very much, Dr. Abir, for your answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a like a practical way of learning. That's how I think we will learn. And yeah, so I think the another thing is like how we overcome selection bias is randomized sample selection, right? So that's another way of saying that, like, just to make it more simplified. So it has to be randomized, not a group of people or not a selective group of people. That, and also I think selection bias happen like when there is exposure, there is a like association between the exposure and the association. So we should try to prevent that as well. Anyway, anybody has any other questions? I did not see any question in the chat box. Thank you, Sarah. And I'm moving. If not, then we can move forward to our next agenda, which is the research ideas and project. And from the team leader, any of you have any idea or anything to share at this time point? So you can certainly raise your hand or you can move forward. If not, then probably I will pick Lubaba to update about the webinar. Sorry, Lubaba, to put you on the spot, but I think you have so much things to share. That's why.
All right. Thank you, Somi. That's fine. Regarding the updates for projects, I just want to give shout out for the dementia team. We were able to submit an abstract within maybe 4 days. I do apologize if I was very pushy. The last year, they mentioned that I was very pushy. I really apologize if I was very bossy, but I'm really very proud of the work that you did. And I believe on you, and I think we are ready to move on with the manuscript. So the idea was actually Dr. Nadir shared a post or an article about dementia screening in hospitals, and suggested maybe we can do a follow-up on that. And it was published on the 2013. So initially, like I thought about, there was submission deadline coming for AMA challenging, virtual challenging post or something. So I thought about that. Initially, it was within 2 days. And I thought it's okay, it's a ready article. If we have the manpower, I think we can make it. So I reached out, and 10 of people reached back, and they were ready to ramp on. But luckily, the deadline was extended. So we had more time, and we had more people joined. And we were actually able to do a quick kind of systematic review. And meanwhile, we were trying to write the abstract. We found that another article was really recently published in the same subject. So we had multiple turns in our objectives, and it ended up being a good abstract. Hopefully that we can hear good news. Even if we didn't hear good news, we are pampered up to continue as a manuscript and submit it for any other journals. So I just wanna salute the team, and that was a great work. In regard to the webinar for COVID, now it is tentatively is going to be on the 8th. Tomorrow, inshallah, we're gonna have a rehearsal. The time is not confirmed yet, but most likely it's going to be 3 Central. I apologize. Dr. Mahmoud just reached to me today about the time for tomorrow. I hope you guys will be able to make it, all of the participants. We're gonna have the flyer soon. We will share it with you. We'll share it with the social media. Hopefully we will provide some information for the people out there regarding the COVID vaccine and how it's important to pursue that. I think those are the 2 big projects that currently we're working on it, but that's all. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Honestly, I received a lot of questions regarding the abstract that we wrote and when will be the next step and what we should do. I'm going to try to meet with you guys, and it's really hard to work with on the weekend only, and it's a difference in the time between here and Sudan and Gulf area, but I will try to send kind of what do you call it, a vote kind of for time, if you are available to attend the meeting, quick meeting. Otherwise, we will record it as the last time, and I'm open to your ideas and suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lubaba. That's really helpful. And don't worry about that you are pushy or bossy. That's how you get things done. And you are the leader. So you have all the, opportunity to push us. That's how all of us eventually will lead things and get things done. So don't worry about that. And ultimately, our goal is to publish and do things, to meet the deadline. That's what about it. But I like your idea and how did you cooperate everything with your busy schedule. And also I like the idea that you did not take any decision. You always value others people's opinion. The way you choose the title, I really like that, because you shared with the Google sheet and then okay, how much vote you are going to get for each of the title and which one is get the more votes, and that's you're gonna select. That's a very fair way of selecting a title. That's a new one I learned from you. Anyway.
Thank you.
I think Dr. Osman has a question. Can you please go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, assalamu alaikum, Dr. Lubaba. I have a few questions for you because we're starting our project, and I'm the leader for this project. I want to know a few things. How do I plan, or we are in the planning now. How do I decide, me and my team members, our time frame? The time frame, we're tomorrow, it's August 1st. how much time I should put for data collection. Like, for example, to fill those questionnaires all over the 3 states that we chose. And then how much time we should put for the data analysis and everything else. And then how much time we should put for the end result or writing the abstract. Like, how do we do these things?
Thank you so much, Dr. Ram. And I feel like a PhD holder or something. You asked me to do.
Because you're a successful leader, and mashallah, you're getting results, and you're.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Regarding data collection and with the project that you shared the idea, I'm not the expert to tell about that. Maybe Dr. Nadir can give you more information in that regards. But I assume that since you're gonna do like a phone calls for multiple kind of nursing home, that
Yes.
I think they will take a big chunk of your time preparing for that. Maybe if you have enough people, you can put maybe 2 weeks since you wanna add that to your CV, but I think wisely it will be more than that to collect the data only. But once you had the data, I believe you can write the abstract or the manuscript within less time. For example, I would say a manuscript will take, if you have 10 people or you have at least 5 people that are good at writing, and you can assign like 4 hours a day or less than 4 hours a day, like you can finish it within 5 days, writing like a really good thing with your brain, like just focusing on that. To me, for example, I found that I really work hard with this stress. I mean, I am more productive when I am stressed and when I'm about to meet a deadline, and work mainly in the mornings when my coffee is on the side. So everybody is different. So, but I find that writing the manuscript or the abstract is the easiest part, as long as you have the data and all the things are in front of you. Maybe just about the results and finding the results might take more time as well. That's why I'm thinking like maybe if you have 10 or 10 good writers, like you will need a week or 5 days to write.
We are 8 in the group, just to let you know. We are 8 in the group, but since 5 of us is inside the States and 3 of us are outside, so the 5 who are inside the US, they're going to concentrate on contacting the senior homes and conducting these surveys and collecting the data. And then meanwhile, the 3 who are outside, I think they're in UAE and Saudi and Sudan, they will read and research and understand how to write the abstract and the manuscript and all these things while we do the collection of the data, so we won't waste time. The other thing is, if I understood what you just say, collecting the data or making the calls, you say to put like a 2-week general timeline for this?
Yes, this is what I assumed, like, because here in the States, I don't know how nursing homes kind of work and accepting this kind of calls, but in the general population, for example, if you're here, when you get an advertisement, you are not ready to answer that right away. So I'm expecting that you are not going to be answered first time or the second time, or maybe you had some areas that might be challenging to get information. So when you give yourself that window, I think you will be okay. Like if you give yourself a week and you feel like you are stressed out or overwhelmed without getting any information. And the one thing that I missed to add is assigning tasks for people, for all of the people, like, and I shared this, like the title thing was, like I created a Google form and asked everybody to pinch in and vote. I like all the members to take the role of being a leader or kind of own the project themselves. So I think that way you will be very productive. So assigning tasks, and everybody should be held accountable for the task.
Hold accountable for this. One last question is, how did you communicate with your team member? Did you have a WhatsApp group, or did you have a conference call every week, or what is the communication way to follow up with your group, you know, and not to lose this momentum? Because sometimes if we lose it, and then the length of the time, people will get lax. So how you're communicating with your group, and how you like always not pushing them, but you know, keep this momentum going?
Actually, yeah, WhatsApp group, and actually, I do have like a lot of good. All of them are great fellows and great members, and they own the work. Sometimes they push me. They ask me like privately questions, so I'll come back and communicate through the whole group, so everyone will be on the same page. But WhatsApp group, and for that, the dementia project, we held one meeting, and it was like short notice, and I appreciate a lot of them joined the meeting, and we recorded the meeting for the other people that they did not attend. So being flexible and try to utilize WhatsApp, I think it's good.
Okay, thank you very much for answering my question. If there's anyone in my group, please take this opportunity to ask Dr. Lubaba. Otherwise, inshallah, we can communicate with you.
Sorry for cutting you.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question for you. So what I just want to clarify that you are planning to contact the nursing home by phone to get the data from them?
Yes.
So I think it's gonna be difficult. I don't know if Dr. Nadir comment on that, because the HIPAA, it's considered violation to give you patient information. I don't know how you can approach that.
Okay. Dr. Nadir.
So the project itself, it depends on what data you want to collect. So if your question about data collection from patients, that's right. You need to go through HIPAA and the IRB approval and so forth. But if what we are proposing, or the idea, is to collect information from the staff, how did the staff manage and handle the situation when we have COVID compared to when before COVID. So the activity personnel, this is about the activity, right, Bian?
Yes.
So
this is going to be the activity. Yeah.
So basically, the role of activity personnel of the team who provide activities to the nursing home residents, they in the past, they offer them different types of activities. They play cards, they watch TV, movies, they get together or individually. But when COVID came, each patient was restricted to their room. So they have to come up, the staff, for the activity with some new ways of filling this activity time or leisure time. So different nursing homes dealt with this differently. So we are asking the staff who provides this activity, how did they handle that? Which it does not include any patient information. So it does not need permission from IRB, or it does not need, it doesn't go into the realm of HIPAA. So.
Thank you for this answer, Dr. Nadir.
Yeah. There is another way, if it depends on how many you want to do. So the first way is to do it with phone calls. And I think this is faster. It may be difficult a little bit, but faster and contacting the persons there. If you can get the manager of that department, that's well and good. If not, maybe anyone of the team can answer the questions, because they do that on a daily basis. The other way, which is easier, but it will take longer and the result might not be as faster, is you fax each nursing home the questionnaire written and submit it to the department of the what's called the activity department. And address it to the manager for that activity department and see if they look at it, answer it, and fax it back to you. So this is another way, or maybe a website link. They can log into the Google form or something, and then they can answer the question from there. It depends on when they will get the fax and how busy they are, and when you have a responsible person to upload or add the information. It may or may not take long, but usually surveys are less aggressive. But when you call, you will have the person there, or at least they will tell you, I'm in a meeting, I will call you back in 10 minutes or in 1 hour, so you will have some some person there.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nadir. Thank you.
All right.
And if you want to, and if people are interested in similar, if you have more team, let's say more than 10 people, you can divide it into two. You can compare response rate from activity personnel using the phone and TikTok and calling, and do another set of surveys, maybe online or questionnaire type of based, and see what's the response rate and see if there is any comparison between the two. So, and you can present this as a two separate project or proposal. It will have the same, more or less, the data that you are trying to collect. Maybe there will be a little bit of a difference here and there, but the approach will be the same. If you think about it, like if you want to do multiple projects with the same concept. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nadir.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir. And it was very helpful, like how I think even de-identified data also need not need any IRB or something like that. If it is de-identified data, like no personal information will be used to from the data to identify anything or for the outcome. So I don't think like IRB is like concerned about that. So that's another way also that it should be okay, I guess. Anybody have any questions? Otherwise, we can move forward to our next agenda, which is like SPSS. I think Dr. Muhammad have any question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Just a quick question to Dr. Lubaba. She mentioned a COVID project rehearsal tomorrow. Is that rehearsal open for the entire fellow or just for the one who are participating? And if it's open, there's a certain access or maybe a link you can share with the rest of the group. Thank you, everybody, for your time and the great meeting today.
Thank you, Dr. Tijani, for that question. Actually, it's for the participating group, and the idea behind the rehearsal is just to find if there is any techniques that's better in holding this webinar, because we have 3 fellows, I believe, in Sudan, and the rest of us here and scattered. So just to identify the platform and see the feedback from the kind of director with SAPA and implement that in the webinar. But you are welcome to join if you would like. We can send you the link.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering that question. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I think, Lubaba, you can send the link to the like our the fellows fellows like WhatsApp group, so whoever is available can join. Like all
That's a good idea too. Yeah, so we can hear feedback from you guys as well. That's an excellent idea. Thank you, Dr. Tijani, for asking that question. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have any other questions, or we can move forward to our next agenda where Dr. Ali Muhammad is going to teach us about SPSS, how we are going to handle the missing data, which is a very important topic. And Ali, are you ready?
Yes, Sumi.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Is my voice clear? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So today I'm going to demonstrate briefly about missing data and how to manage them. This is just a hypothetical data. I formulated the variable view. These are the variables: serial number, index, which is a student number, the age, gender, evaluation of fairness of the exam, and inclusiveness. So first of all these data are numeric, and missing data. This illustration is all about the numeric data. So you have to change some of the data into numeric before dealing with the missing values. For example, gender is male or female. It's a binary or nominal data. But here I have added some values definition, 1 for male and 2 for female, and also the exam was pair, agree, neutral, disagree, and these were all changed to numeric values. So here you can see the gender, the fairness of the exam, and the inclusiveness. But if I change that to A and to numbers, here you can see the gender here, 2 for female and 1 for male, and so on. So if you run descriptive statistics here, for example, gender, descriptive statistics. So let's say student gender. Here you are going to see that there are 17 valid values and 5 missing data. So you can leave it as it is here, but it's advisable if you have a lot of data and you want to be you want to avoid the confusion, and maybe, for instance, if you accidentally remove or delete this data accidentally, it's not missing. So you want to know, and you want to make sure that your data is of high quality. So it's better to identify one value that is known for you and for whoever is using the SPSS. It's a code for missing values. For example, here, the age. Of course, some participants may miss this data. Maybe they're not willing to share their age. So you need to identify the missing data. Here you have 3 options, or actually 2 if you want to choose missing values. It's either discrete missing values, meaning that you have 3 or less values that whenever you type them in, Dr. Wiam, are you raising your hand now? Or is my voice clear and everything okay? Okay. So
yes.
Okay, great. So if you have a discrete values to identify as missing values, you can type it here. For example, no, the maximum age maybe 100 or so. So you need to add a unique value for which the actual data couldn't be, for example, 999, or maybe it's minus 1. No age is -1, and no expected age 999. So this is a way, and there is another way. Maybe if you want to put a range from, let's say, 200 to 400, and you also can add a discrete value also here, let's say -1. So whenever you type or enter data, for example, 250, 350, 300, -1, or anything, with the SPSS software will understand that this is the missing data, and the actual participant did not enter, did not participate with this data. So let's make it discrete missing value here. So this is one way to add it manually. For example, if here student age, participant who has a serial number 7, we can add 999, and here let's say 999. Um, so here, as you can see, we have 9 missing values in the age, and we just manually enter the 999. So let's analyze this data. So you can see the output tab, right? It's just the data.
Not yet.
Sumi, can you see the result?
No, it's
No.
like a black screen, like kind of.
Really? Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna stop share and then reshare.
Yeah, probably
Sorry.
stop and reshare again.
Okay. Sorry for that. Now you can see the results.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's great. So here, the student A, as we saw, we have 9 missing values with 999 and 13 valid data, as you can see from this short description. And it will result in the same numbers if you make them blank. But the idea here is again that you are for sure this value is missing and not maybe deleted by mistakes or other thing. I'm going to share again the SPSS here, because if you have a lot of data, a lot of participants, you don't want to manually enter these values. So you go to transform, recode into same variables. So for example, you want to the student index number, those or the student number. You want any missing data in the index number to be automatically transformed into 999. So here you click on the system missing. So whenever the system finds missing data, the system will transform it or recode it into 999. Add. So continue. Of course, you can include more than one variable, or maybe it's taken to index number here. So let's see. As you can see here, this was missing data, all of these data, and they are now recoded into 999. And this analysis will result in the same values. The last point I want to discuss is if you want to exclude the missing data, for example, this participant who has a serial number of 20, they did not fill much of the questionnaire. So if you want the system to exclude any participant who hasn't filled, for example, the gender or the fairness of the exam, you can do that by clicking on data. And now you are going to click on select cases. So here you want the system to take an order with start with if condition. So your condition is if, for example, you have missing values, as you see here, and you click on the nmiss, and miss which is in values. So that's why I started the demonstration by telling you that you need to convert your data into numeric values. So here, because the software only understands numbers, doesn't understand categorical values. Anyways, here, after we click on missing values and end miss, here you are going to enter the variable you want. So for example, here we say if the participant does not provide us with his gender, his or her gender, and maybe
Ali, are you there? We can't hear you.
Ali, we missed your voice. Can you just check the mic, please?
I think he is having some technical difficulties.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, that's great. I think it is due to the bad internet connection. I'm sorry for that. So I'm going to continue without the video. Where have you lost me?
I think when you started this page, so it's better if you explain one more time from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So as I was saying, if you want to exclude data that are missing, for example, you have your own philosophy or have your own requirements. For instance, if anyone does not provide you with his or her gender or stating if the exam is fair or not, if you want to exclude them, you can do that by clicking on data and select cases. So this is a condition you are going to tell the software to do. So you're going to click if condition is satisfied. If here you want to exclude missing values. So here you're going to click on missing values and miss. The miss here refers to numeric missing values. So as I started, you have to transform your data. If not, they are all numeric. For example, if they are categoric, you need to convert them into numeric missing values. Here, you are going to include your variables of interest in the question mark here. So we say gender and then comma. Also, fairness of the exam. So here, if the gender or fairness of the exam is less than, let's say, 1. Okay, this is your condition. If the missing values less than 1, you can filter out unselected cases. It's already here. You are going to filter unselected cases. Okay, let's start. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. Okay, can you see my screen now? The system or the software has excluded these values, the number 3 and 4, because they did not provide their gender, and also number 6. Now, if you are going to analyze your data now, gender analyze, so you want descriptive statistics. Here, this software has excluded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the data variables. So let's do frequencies and gender. We have 22 participants, but the software have excluded 5, so it should be 17, or it's maybe we did something wrong. So student gender, we need to run statistics. Okay. I'm going to share again my last thing. So this is the tab where we have the results, and here you have valid 17 participants or valid 17 values, and there are no missing because you have already excluded the missing data. So oddly, they were all female. That was random. Anyway, that's not the point. I hope now you can deal easily with missing values. If you have any questions, please go on and ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. That was great. It is very helpful. Anybody has any questions? And please go ahead or raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll move forward to our next agenda, which is Excel graph presentation, like brief Excel graph presentation by Dr. Liana.
I have one question, please.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, for this great presentation. I have a question. If I leave it blank, the missing variable, do I get the same result or different one?
Thank you, Dr. Abid, for your question. Actually, it doesn't differ much, or it doesn't differ at all if you leave it blank or you recode the missing values. But as I was saying, if maybe you delete it by mistake, you want to maybe, if especially that's the case if 2 or more users are entering the data or using the SPSS software at the same time. So now you are sure that this data, this particular variable is missing and not maybe deleted or anything else. But the results will be the same either ways. Thank you for the question.
You're welcome. Thank you for the answer.
Anybody else have any questions? If not, then we can move forward to our next agenda, which is Excel graph presentation by Dr. Liana. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me well?
Yes. Yes.
This will be a brief demonstration of the graphs of Excel. Hopefully, you will learn how to deal with them and what type of graph we will choose for each set of data or different sets of data. Let me share my screen. So this is a hypothetical data that we're going to use to demonstrate the most used type of graphs. So we have questionnaire that has a section ID, gender, socioeconomic status, and a score. And we want to create a graph to present the percentage of gender that we have in our set of data. First of all, we will have to organize the female and male genders so we can create a small table from which we will create the graph that we're going to use. So on the column for gender, I will go to the sort and filter and pick from A to Z. After organizing them and counting the number of females and males, we create a small table that has the cell with gender distribution. Female were 12 and male were 9. We use a small table to create the pie graph. We will simply click insert, choose the pie graph. This is the distribution of female and male gender in our population. As we can see, when we choose insert, there are different options that we find in the Excel program. The recommended chart icon is a clever way that the Excel itself gives us a recommendation of what is a preferable graph type for our set of data. So if we press here, we can find that the Excel recommends either columns, by, or bars. So since we have a simple set of categories that we're going to use, it's better to use the by because we can visualize it better. And there's no, ideally, we can't use it for more than 7 categories. So if our set of data has more than 7 categories, it's better that we use something else. The by chart or graph is usually used for when we have one data series. There are not multiple data series. So if you have multiple data series, maybe you can use a donut. You can demonstrate different, more than one data series in one graph. As you can see, we can manipulate the graph itself. We can change the title of it, change the colors. We want other colors to be used other than blue and orange. Even the category type, if you want to change the name of it, we can change that after we created the graph. Another type of graph that we can use, if we have, like in the socioeconomic status column, let's say our questionnaire that was hypothetically distributed had 3 categories. 1 is for low, 2 is for moderate socioeconomic, and 3 is for high socioeconomic. Again, we create a simple table, socioeconomic status, low, moderate, and high, and count the distribution or the frequencies. And after that, we can select this table, again, and insert. Here we can see it's giving us a recommendation for the same previous type of graphs that we used in the first one. We can use the same, or we can use this time the columns. In each type of graph, we can see that the Excel gives us the 2D, 3D dimensions. That is, we can take it just a plain by, or we can twist it up a little bit. We can use a 3D view of the by. As for the columns or bars, there is another upgrade for it in the Excel. We can use just plain columns or stacked columns or 100% stacked columns. We will talk about it a little bit in the upcoming set of data. So this is another set of data. We have patients and we have measured fever, one during the day and the other during the night, and we would like to demonstrate them in a simple graph. Again, we will select the table that we use, insert. Here, it's given us a type of graphs that gives us 2 sets of data, which is this one, clustered columns, stacked columns, scatter. But the one we're going to use this time is the line. Here we can see in this axis, we have the patient's name, patient A, B, C, etc. And here we have the fever scale. The blue gives the day measurement of temperature. The orange gives the night measurement of temperature. So this is the line graph. As for the clustered options on the Excel, let's see, we have 6 patients with 3 readings of glucose. And we want to demonstrate these data on a graph. We will simply select, insert. Again, they have a recommended cluster column. This time we're going to use it. Use the clustered columns if you don't want an order for the data. Like you can see here, they are not ordered from highest to lowest. They're just put in the order of the patients that we named on the Excel. Again, you can change the chart title, colors, names on the X and Y axis, and even add a background color. As for the stack option, let's assume we have students who have sat for 2 tests, which has part A and part B. The tests add to each other, so you have one final degree after passing the 2 part A and part B, and you want to demonstrate these data on a graph. The ideal one for it is these stacked columns. It will show each individual student in blue his part A degree, and in orange his part B degree, and you can the sum up of the whole degree out of 100 in the exam. There are different types of graphs. These are the most common one, and they usually used during the presentation of the data we collect during the researches. And I hope that I could fulfill the task perfectly. If you have any question, I'm ready.
Thank you so much, Dr. Liana. It's very informative. Anybody has any question? Okay, Ali raised his hand. Go ahead, Ali.
Actually, I don't have a question. I wanted to thank Lina for the very nice demonstration. I think the Excel graphs are very appealing and visually they are visually self-explanatory, and it's easy to understand. So I think you can make whatever you want on SPSS or whatever other software for analysis, and then copy and paste the tables of results here in Excel, and you will have a very good graphs here. Anyway, thanks again, Lina. That was very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Anybody else? If not, we are very on time today. We have 10 minutes left probably. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Osman.
Just want to thank Dr. Lina. Very nice presentation. Very well discussed. And now we know who to go to when we have question about Excel. Thank you very much for your explanation. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, and thank you, Dr. Lina. This is a really great presentation from both of you. Good tutorial, and you touch upon different things. Thank you so much. This is very helpful. And I just want to also comment on Ali suggestion or comment. When you are using certain like SPSS software, sometimes they have limitation. They can give you the graph, and it will be a very simple sketch kind of graph. So you can get the data, the table, put it in Excel, and then in Excel you can create your own graph, as Lina mentioned, and then you can play with colors, with background, and everything else. Thank you. Sulaf.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir. I think Dr. Shulapa raised her hand. Go ahead, please.
Hello, thank you so much, Dr. Nadir. My question is, it's general question, like for the project. So some of us would like to apply for the match, so and they want to put it in the CV, their publication. So just, is there any round time? So where we will publish the abstract? So it should be in with Michigan University, or we can submit it in a journal? Thank you.
So I'll go ahead. So basically what at this level is you work on the project, and then we will decide what, let's say, we are submitting an abstract, it will go to a meeting or conference. So we will identify these conferences and we're gonna submit the abstract. What you want to do is to put in your application your title of the abstract and the authors, and put submitted to this meeting, for instance. By the time they respond and they accept, let's say, your poster, then you will change that into your CV as accepted. And when you publish that, it will be as published. So you can just start with submitted status on your project.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Shilafa. That's a good question. So it is like 3 phases, like submission, then acceptation, and then published. So any phase you can just write it down in your CV, or you can submit into ERAS, or even if you submit and that's in the press, you can still write that it's in the press, it's still not published yet. So like there are as long as you're involved, and I think like any stage you can put into your CV, and when you go for interview you can definitely explain like what project you involved and what stages your research is. All right, Dr. Muhammad Tigani raised his hand. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. I just try to highlight the same point Dr. Sulafa mentioned, and I'm directing this question again to Dr. Nader. What would be the best way to benefit from these projects we are working on, and try to highlight it in our CV when we apply for residency, since the application process is almost going to start soon? What's your recommendation?
Yeah, what you can do is you can put it in 2 areas. One area will be your research experience. So you will put whatever project that you are working on. Let's say project number 1, I worked on, let's say, the Florida nursing home activity kind of. You put the title there, you put what you are doing with the team as just 1 graph or 1 paragraph, something like that. This is what we are doing, right? As far as this project is concerned. If we are at the stage where we collected the data and we submitted the abstract, then in the publication section, the other part of your CV, you will put this title, whatever title you submitted. These are the authors, and the status of that title is submitted. So it could be accepted, it could be rejected. So at the time when we submit it, you will put it in your CV as submitted. Let's say October came and your abstract has been accepted. Then if there is a way to change your CV to make it appear as, instead of submitted, to accept it, you can make the changes in your ERAS application. I'm not sure if this is possible or not, but this is a way you can do it in your CV. Say by November, December, when the interview started, you already have been accepted and you are preparing for presentation. If at that time you can, during the interview, you can mention that we submitted the abstract, we have been accepted, and now we are planning to present that poster. And same goes for paper or manuscript submitted for publication as a paper. So if you have a paper you wrote, you are submitting, then you put that paper and the status is submitted. And if it's accepted, you change that into accepted, and you put the date for publication. Sometimes there's an e-publication, like it will be published electronically, or if it comes out in a paper format, then you just mention that in your CV. If that's clear for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
I can see Dr. Abujar raised his hand. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
So,
My question is for Dr. Nader. The same like, do you hear me well?
yes, go ahead.
Okay. Same like Dr. Tijani's question. If we are working on like 3 or 4 projects, we have to separate each of them. Like we are working in project 1 in research experience, and we are doing so, number 2, number 3, and number 4.
Correct.
And the second question is regarding this geriatric fellowship, what we are doing right now, where to put it in ERAS application, like research experience, or where we can put it in our CV. Thank you.
So what I suggest is we can talk about the CV in one of the next coming session before you actually go to ERAS. So we can work on 2 parts. One part is how you fill in your application, and we can look at some samples and see how people did that. And the other part is the personal statement. Also, we can work on that. So in the coming few weeks, we can work on this. But to answer your first question, the part in the application where you ask about your experience, the research experience, you will mention that you are a fellow now. So you can add it as MSU fellowship. You started this day and expected to finish by that day. And then if you want, you can elaborate on what you learned there. The project, you can put it down below that, and then you can mention project number 1. You mention just brief summary of what that project talked about, and then second project and third project, how many projects you can put as far as these are what your experience of learning the skills in research. So this part will be in the CV as experience, a research experience. There is a section where it's only for publication. That publication part or section, you will add if you submitted the abstract to the, let's say, a meeting or conference. So you will put your title for the abstract and the authors or the team members in that abstract, and where you are going to submit it. And just mention between parentheses that it's submitted on so and so. And if you have more than one, you will repeat the same process for the rest of the abstract that you are submitting. In a few months, you will get the reply from these conferences, and they will say, we accepted this poster, we rejected this poster. For those accepted, then you just need to go back to your CV and change the status of that abstract from submitted to accepted, if that makes sense. And hopefully before the interviews, if you presented that abstract, then it will be considered as presented and published. That's already out of the door. That's the section for publication. And same goes for if you are writing a paper, you write the manuscript. That's the proposal and the project you are working on. So you put it in the project. Let's say you finished it and you submitted that manuscript to a journal. So you will put in the publication part ongoing or submitted manuscripts. You put the title, the authors, and where you are submitting that manuscript to the journal, and put when you submit it, and just the status will be submitted. In a few months, you will get review from the reviewers, and you address this, and finally they accept or they reject. If they accept, then you put it as already published. They accepted it, and it will be published in the addition of the journal number or the date something. So you put it in your CV in the publication. So you will change it from submitted status to published status. And it will be in text in the PubMed, for instance. If people are looking for your paper, they will search for your name and it will be listed there if it's been accepted and published. That's the where you put your experience and your publication. Does it make
Thank
sense?
you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. But as far as I know, if your ERAS application has been certified and submitted, you won't be able to do anything after it. And
that's my understanding. So what we can do, we can look at submitted ERAS application from previous fellows, and we look at them and then see how did they put this in there as example, and then you can follow this example or you modify whatever way you want to do. Sometimes what happens is you put it as submitted in your CV. So when during the interview, they will ask you, tell us more about this project. So you will talk about the project, and now you have the chance to update the status. You will say, and by the way, we have been accepted to publish or present this poster and so on. So conference that will be there, virtual or in Chicago or something. So it will be the actual chance for you to change or update your actual CV in person instead of writing it in your ERAS application.
Yes, thank you so much. And just have to say 2 or 3 words regarding the project that we are working on. Last week, we haven't done anything. Alfie's son has passed away and he didn't come to the office. So we didn't do anything last week. That's a brief update about the project. Thank you, Dr. Nader. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Before going to the next person, I have 2 questions in the chat box. First question was Dr. Ala Abdul Samad. He asked that regarding the authors, how it goes and leaders will take first or how about others? So I can explain how did I do it, and probably from there, Dr. Nadir can explain. So I have a project with COVID and cardiovascular risk factor. Basically, it's not cardiovascular. We combine like what is the relationship between COVID, hospitalization, length of stay in the hospital, and ventilation and mortality versus the risk factors. So before doing that project, that was my idea basically, that the elderly risk factors and association of COVID hospitalization and mortality and outcomes is mortality, COVID hospitalization, and ventilation rate. So we submitted, me and Dr. as I'm a student of MSU as well, so it was easier for me and Dr. Nadir together to submit all the IRB applications and the ideas and go through this IRB. So we did that. We asked IT to get some de-identified data, and we got that. We submitted that abstract, it was accepted. And me and my other 4 fellows, we presented last year at AGS. And now we are in the process of writing the manuscript. So that is already submitted, presented in the AGS annual meeting. And now we are in the process of writing the manuscript. So I agreed from all of my co-authors that is that okay if I would be the first author and rest of the thing, like whoever second, third, they agreed to that, as it was the concept was Dr. Nadir and me probably kind of initiated, and then and I splitted the works for all of us, so everybody agrees. So that's how I split my work, and I did the co-authorship and primary authorship. So for the other projects, I'm not sure how will it goes. Probably Dr. Nadir and Lubaba can explain it. Can you please discuss Dr. Nadir first?
So I'll let Lubaba go ahead and then I will follow.
Okay, thank you so much, Somi. Honestly, not paying that much attention to the question that you asked, but I was trying to reiterate the point that Dr. Nader mentioned regarding the publications and how you add that to your CV, and actually was typing the answer in the chat box. So to Abu Zar and Dr. Sulafa's questions, yes, it's right that when you submit the ERAS application, you don't have the option to modify. So what we did last year, and I found it helpful, that you can write all the projects that you are currently working on under the explanation of the research fellowship that you are doing now. And the publication part, it has 3 options, I believe, status-wise, either submitted, published, or on the press. So you have the option to put the project over there. So last year, for example, when we submitted for AGS and for AMDA, it was after we certified the application. So we wrote that under the explanation. And then those of us, they had interviews, they had the opportunity to talk about that. So, and what is the question again? So sorry.
No problem. So the question was regarding the authors. It's from Dr. Abdul Samad, that regarding the authors, how it goes. Leaders will take first, or how about others?
I believe Dr. Nader mentioned that before. At this stage, it's not very important that who is the first author or who is the second author, as far as your name is there in a publication. So I believe for the presentation part, for abstract, whoever submitted, or at least from last year experience, whoever submitted for a convention, or I mean, they were the chosen for presentation. But as far as paper or manuscript, I think all of them. Oh, my internet?
Yeah, your voice is in and out a little bit.
Okay, you hear me well now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't know where I come, but I meant like last year for the presentation part, whoever submitted the abstract was the one who presented or had the option to present. For AMDA, for example, what I read for AGS as well. But Dr. Nader can add more to the question, to the answer.
So, yeah, thank you so much, both Lubaba and Sumi. But basically, the authorship at this level, it doesn't mean anything if you are the first author or the last author in the list. Like when you submit an abstract, your name is the first or the last in the list. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So the item where you put your name or the slot of the place, it doesn't matter at this level. They just want to make sure you are involved in a research and your name is there. The way we handle it, as Sumi mentioned, in the past, if you come up with the idea for a project, then you will be entitled to lead that project and be the first author, and your team will follow. If, let's say, I give you an idea and a group of you jump on that, then it's between you who will be the leader. Let's say number one, say I will be leading this project. Then he or she will be the first author as far as leading the project and making sure everything is going smooth, the tasks are assigned and everybody is involved and the project is going forward. So that's the way we handle it. There is no benefit at this level if you put your name first or second or third, as long as you published something. Down the road, when you are going to be finishing your residency, applying to the fellowship, it may make a difference if you are the first author. But the same is kind of 50-50. They may not look at it very hard. But after you finish the fellowship, now you are attending in an academic institution. Let's say you become a faculty here at MSU. Then if you work on different projects and your name is the first author in many of these projects, then it will help you in your promoting yourself from assistant professor to an associate professor, from an associate professor to whatever level in professorship. So this is how it affects you in the future, as far as if you're the first author or second author, if that makes sense for you guys. But at this level, as long as you are involved in your project, your name in the list, that's what matters. And you understand what involved in it. So they will ask you during the interview, tell us more about this project or this paper or this poster. Then you know at least what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir. And that was a great question, though. I think it was clarified. And also, like from last year experiences, as we went to the interview, I can share my experience when I was in interview. I think they have, of course, all the faculties have our CV in front of them. So the program director asked, like, you have a huge number of, like, publications, more than 15, but never he asked me, like, I'm the first author or what number of author. But at the same time, when I think they have a checkbox, they are asking like leadership skills or research skills. So then he asked me, like, what is your leadership skills, or how would you do you have any leadership where you see that, or manage a research project or something like that in your life? Or if you are a resident, like, if you lead a project, how do you do that? So, like that's like I explained that, how did I do that? And for the other project as well, I explained, because the COVID was a big hot topic at that time, because we are interviewing basically during the pandemic. So it matters, but I did not hear from any of them, like, I'm the first author or what's your contribution. So you can relate to that as a leader, or if you lead any project, or use that leadership skills to your CV or somewhere else if you are asked to. But I don't think that's a matter. It's how many, that's a number, like how many numbers of papers or how many numbers of project you did, and how much do you know about that, your involvement. That's all it matters for the interview. That's my personal experience, but it may differ from each of the people. But my other fellows also, like a previous fellow who are in the residency at this point, they have mentioned the same experience as well. I can see Dr. Saima also raised her hand. Can you please go ahead?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nadir and the rest of the team, for sharing the knowledge today. Actually, my question in same direction regarding the publication for Dr. Nadir and the rest of the team. I know that the application should be directed toward the specialty. So how we can wait between like putting all research activities, even if it's not related to that specialty, or drop it to make it more directed? Like how we wait between this, because at the end it's a research activity and it counts. So is it wisely to put it all, or just the one related to the specialty?
Yeah, to answer your question, I think every piece you put will be important, and it will be evaluated, it will be helpful. You add as much as you can. The way they look at it is how you are involved in the research, how much, let's say, tools like SPSS, Excel, graphs, and how much the depth of knowledge when you are doing, let's say, systematic review or something like that, even if it's not related to the same specialty you are applying to, but the concept will be the same. The skills, set of skills, let's say leadership skills, as Sumi was mentioning, teamwork approach, that also needs a skill. So all this will be considered when you are mentioning it in your application, regardless of the specialty. So they want to make sure you are a team member or team worker, and you will be leading appropriately. You can achieve the goals, or you can accomplish the task that assigned to you. You can follow up on the task that you assign other people to do. because when you are in the residency first year, you'll be led by your seniors. They will tell you, do this, do that, follow up on this, follow up on that. So they want to make sure you are a team member as far as you listen to your supervisor and follow the direction. By the time you become a second year, you will be the leader now. So they want you to make sure you are able to assign the task to the juniors, and at the same time you follow up on this assignment. Are they done? Do they need to follow up pairs of web calls? So if they know these skills, you already have them, then you'll be in a good spot, whatever specialty you are applying to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir and Dr. Saima for I think we need to discuss about these things for next couple meetings, because ERA CV personal statement and how we are going to put all the experiences, which is very important for all of us, and we can probably start our application. It's almost July end. We have like 1.5 months to submit, so we can probably certainly discuss about that in a meeting, next couple of meetings, and we can move forward. And Dr. Saima, as Dr. Nadir explained it very well for your question, I think you have to make, everybody's situation is unique, and you just have to make a story that is connected to your experience and to your specialty. Such as instances like I work for oncology research, and I have so many publications related to oncology. But when I went for family medicine residency interview, they asked like how that experience help you for as a family medicine practitioner. So I knew that question is going to come. So I prepared myself with my other fellows and who have had the same experience and went for family medicine. So the thing is, like, how I related is like my research project was like RCC and prostate cancer and pancreatic cancer. So I worked for the geriatric population. Those are the cancer incidence is more for those type of cancer, mostly in the geriatric population. So, like also I had a grant with my supervisor he's a clinical oncologist. So I have a grant with him to what's the importance of screening for PSA in, prostate specific antigen to young people who has a family history of prostate cancer at age of 40. So I was in the grant for that project, so which helped me that is a part of family medicine practitioner or primary care practitioner that screening up, because they have the one who does the PSA or prostate examination in the first, and they have the most communication, frequent communication with the patient. So I connected that research and that grant helped me a lot to understand like what's the people's mindset up, why the young people don't want to do PSA in the young age. So I have to educate them, like, you have a strong family history, your risk calculation, stratification of risk factor is this much, you are in the high risk group, so you can save your life, or like your potential having this cancer or whatever, like in beginning, if I do PSA today rather than 10 years from today. So which is a part of I think it's a part of a primary care physician's job, or whoever goes for the family medicine. So I'm just trying, and also I worked for the geriatric population, so I know their what kind of cancer is more prevalent for them and how to take care of that, and how do they go through when someone diagnosed cancer at 70 versus 80 or like 65, or like a end stage cancer versus a stage 1, stage 2, and how to communicate with the patient's attendants or their families or their friends, so many things. So I think it's better, like even internal medicine, you can set up your story. If you go for internal medicine interview, you can set up the same story with a different dilemma. Like you can say like, my goal is to go for the oncology fellowship. So, like after that, so I want to know this type of group of population before, as after residency, I might have not any, opportunity to work with the oncology peoples. Or you can say, I want to specialize myself at RCC, like, renal cell carcinoma or cholangio. So you can do your own story with different things. Even you can go for pediatrics you can tell that my research experience with this, what I learned, and my team skills, teamwork skills will help me for my future. So I think it's everybody's situation is unique, but you have to make up your own story and relate to your experience. And but you should not, for whatever experience you have, you should not lose any, you should not you should mention all the experience you have, which every experience counts. That all I can say. Thank you. And I can see Ali, Dr. Ali is raising his hand. Can you please go ahead?
Thank you, Sumi, and thank you all. I know we went beyond the 2 hours. I'm just having a question for Dr. Nadir, maybe after the meeting ends or so, if you are available, Dr. Nadir, or any other fellow can join us, of course. Can you tell us more about geriatrics as a fellowship when it comes to internal medicine versus family medicine? And I heard something about geriatric hospitals for emergency geriatricians. So maybe after this meeting or maybe in the upcoming meeting. Thank you.
Sure. Malas, go ahead.
Hello, Dr. Nadir. Hello, everyone. Thank you for all the members. Thank you for the presenters. Questions and answers were very helpful. I have one question. You mentioned, Dr. Nadir, before, grand round in internal medicine and neurology. Can we have any access for it for now?
You are muted, Dr. Nadir.
Yeah, you're muted.
So I'm gonna share the screen. So if you go to the app, hopefully it's working now. You go to the main. For some reason it's stuck here. So if you go up to the 3 lines here, you will go to grand rounds calendar, and it will list they will start in September. So each topic and the presenter for the coming year. As we approach that date, I'm gonna send you the link. Mostly it will be the same link for all the, sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's every 2 weeks. It will be in that same link, hopefully. It will be Zoom link the same way we are doing now for the internal medicine and grand round between MSU and Sparrow Hospital. For the neurology, they send me an invitation and I forward that invitation to you guys, and whoever is interested also they can join. And that usually start at 7:30 in the morning Eastern time, Detroit time, and last for I think 1 hour or 90 minutes, I'm not sure. So whoever interested also they can just join using that link.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nadir. I have another question. We can use this under our clinical experience. We can put it in IRAS application and clinical experience. Am I right?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, that was very helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And that brings us to the next. Yes, the coming meeting supposed to be in August 7th. So any suggestions for this meeting?
I think Dr. Ali and Dr. Muhammad Tigani raised his hand. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Muhammad.
Yeah,
Sorry, both of them are Muhammad actually.
It's all right. Suggestion is still gonna be ERAS application. What I'm suggesting for as part of the agenda for the upcoming weeks, as many of us already recommend. Thank you for considering that.
All right, Ali, go ahead.
Yeah, actually the same as Dr. Muhammad. I see that we all are interested and in the same boat now. Yeah.
So I'm gonna just change the leader if Dr. Sarah Said is available. Perhaps she and her team, the purple team, will take the lead. So we will talk about ERAS application.
Okay, sounds good, Dr. Nader. I'll be happy
Thank
to join. Thank you.
So one topic will be about ERAS application, the steps and the tips. Any other suggestions? So one thing we can talk about a bit of the current projects. We have ideas or any things that we can update. Any specific area in the research that you want to speak about? Maybe we can take Alice's question, and maybe we can talk about geriatric as a group.
I have a suggestion. Hi, everyone.
Yes, go ahead, Sana, the person.
I was wondering if we can maybe discuss platforms where people can get their articles published, like the different platforms, the fees, the process, because maybe people have different experiences with different journals and different platforms. Just a summary, it doesn't have to be too detailed.
Sounds good.
Yes, Dr. Nader, one of my team member wanted to present about writing an abstract for their research.
Sounds good.
I have one question, Dr. Nader.
Yes.
I don't know if you can discuss this in next meeting or after that. I have difficulty in removing duplicate from references from different software, like if you will concentrate in Excel, how we can remove duplicate from an Excel sheet.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anything else we want to discuss for next meeting, maybe, or the future? I think for the future, we can talk about personal statement. Maybe the week after or the future. Anything else?
Another question, Dr. Nader. I try to join the membership, e-membership, but ask about organization. When I put Michigan State University, asked me about the student ID. So I don't know how to figure it out.
So I would suggest, because it's a lengthy process to go through MSU. I would put your school of graduation, like if you graduate from Khartoum University, for instance, put that as your institute where you graduated from. Because at this level, you are a fellow, yes, but it's a virtual fellowship. You are not a student and you are not a worker or employee at MSU. If you want to become one of these, the process will take longer. If you want to become a student, for instance, you can apply to become a graduate student for certain certificate or master program, and you can take 1 credit and start with that. You can build more credits. Then they will register you, they will accept you, you will be a student. They will give you the student ID with an email, and then you can go through that process. And same if you want to become an employee, you have to go through employment process, human resource and forms. But for the membership, I think the easiest way is to just put your institution, the institution where you are graduated from. And when you talk to them, or if they call you, they just mention that I'm in the transitional between graduating school and going to residency. They may have an option for that. I know AGS, American Geriatric Society, they have an option for transitional graduates, foreign graduates.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So we have an agenda. Salma, you are raising your hand. I'm not sure from previous, or you have another question, comment. Maybe my last.
I have one suggestion for the next meeting. I didn't hear the previous suggestion well. My network was bad, but I will say my suggestion, maybe previously suggested. Me and my team, and most of us start to work in a project, new project. But for my team, we are having hard time to start writing the project. So we did collect the data, but we don't know how to use it. If in the next meeting we can jump to this topic, how to use the collected data and start writing the project, this will be good for me and my team, if that's possible.
Great. So we put it the third item in the first part for next week. We will talk a little bit about geriatric medicine, maybe 5-10 minutes, and then someone will present about the application, how you use. Maybe we can reverse this. Second. So someone will present about how to write the abstract, basically answer your question. If we have the data, and we already looked at the literature, how we can combine this to write an abstract. So if someone can help us walk through these steps, and another person can present about the platform or the applications when we submit, let's say, second part, we'll talk about the RAS, maybe what's the steps involved and the tips. Third part will be updating the current project, what we are doing. Someone may give us a tutorial on how to remove duplicates in Excel or any other tips. And then set up the agenda for future meetings. Thank you for your question, Les.
Welcome, Dr. Nadir.
Salma, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Do you have a question, or you're raising your hand? I'm not sure it's from before.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to lower it.
That's all right. No problem. So,
Dr. Nadir, I do have one question.
yes.
So for the purple team presenting next week, I know we're talking about, or someone's going to talk about how to write an abstract. So I was wondering if we can expand on that and also include, so I found that the easiest form of publication are the review articles. I'm not too sure if they weigh much, but if we can expand the abstract to include how to write your review article.
To write a review article. Okay. why don't we make that for the week after? Because review actually might be a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You can. Thank you. Excellent. Any other suggestions or any questions before we adjourn? So thank you so much, everyone, for the productive meeting, and I hope everyone of you learned something. Thank you for presenting and sharing your information with those who presented. And every question is great, almost great. Thank you so much. So we'll see you next week, hopefully. And good luck. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Night.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone.
Thank
You all
you,
day.
Dr.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you
Nader.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.